Well, this is kind of the main topic of tonight. This is what I'm sure you're all tuned in for. We have the dark truth of John Shrek McPhee. Now, we'll get into who he is in just a minute. If you guys are not aware of him, the Sheriff of Baghdad. He's done the whole podcast circuit. He's been on Sean Ryan. He's been on Mike Ritland. He's been on many of the podcasts in the scene. He's done lots of his own videos. You guys have probably seen his Combat Zero videos, some of his knife videos. So he's been around, he's been telling stories. He's somewhat associated, not quite, but somewhat associated with our other favorite Green Beret. This is a picture of the two of them together. Not saying that they're, entwined with all the things that they do, but it does seem that birds of a feather flock together. And it's also important to note that Shrek was pretty silent about all of the stuff that was going on with Tim. And it's possible because he was guilty of some of the same things. Possible anyways. So this is from Jack Murphy. As McPhee started doing the podcast circuit, I received a text from retired Unit Sergeant Major, who I once served with him, saying, if you're thinking of having him on your podcast, you probably shouldn't, because he's moved from embellishing to straight up lying. Axe to grind. What are your thoughts on John Shrek McPhee before we move on to the allegations?
Before we move on, he's been around for a long time. I think he started his presence on Instagram around 2014, maybe 15, if memory serves correct. People have had a long time to dig stuff up. And so when you look at videos and you see the comments now, especially the videos dealing with the allegations or discussing them, which there's not many. If you look at recent uploads on John McPhee, there's not a lot of content on this subject thus far. But if you look at those comments, all of a sudden they're full of people saying, "Oh, I knew he was full of shit. I knew I could smell a rat as soon as he started talking." And it just kind of I think it's one of those things at this point. He is a popular guy. I've talked to people that I know, and he was a senior Delta operator in GWAT. That's not something that's up for debate. Now, what happened during that time, who knows? And the stories he tells, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. One of the things that John I'm sorry, go ahead.
Have you seen the Valhalla VFT video?
Yeah.
Okay, because we're gonna play an edited version of that. So
yeah, I saw that, and then I saw the Jameson Travels video, which was kind of aggravating, but yeah.
Well, if I remember Jameson Travel videos, he talks a lot without saying anything.
Yeah, he's more of like a React old core USMC tuber guy. He's not bad, but he's like he rides a lot of fences. This was one of the first videos where I've seen him kind of have an opinion, or at least allude to which side he's falling on. The other one, oddly enough, was the one where he covered Sam Hyde making fun of John McPhee. And he thought that was ridiculous. Who is Sam Hyde to make fun of John McPhee? So people are definitely just instantly flipping. And it's just strange to watch. It's like a true crime commentary on YouTube.
Well, Sam Hyde is a comedian, so he's free to poke fun at whoever he wishes. That's
correct.
Whether you like his comedy or not.
Right.
Well, so I think this is actually the clip, because I remember watching this clip when it came out a long time ago. Yeah, from Sam and Nick's Perfect Clips. Yeah. Podcast operators need to be stopped.
This one's good.
Patrol shutting down the range.
And I'm like, Rangers? We're the shiznit. Nobody shuts down the Rangers. What's happening?
Another unit is coming in that has primacy.
What? There is no unit that has primacy over the Rangers. I don't know what's going on. This Black Hawk helicopter.
Where's John Shrek McPhee come up in here? I'm sure he's on here at some point. Jocko always, his face just makes me laugh. Something about it. It's the conical shape of it that makes me laugh. Not that he's not what he claims to be or anything, but just his face is kind of funny.
It's the 5 head that does it for me.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't this one. Maybe it was the other video. Let me see.
He has so much backbone, and he's so.
Stop it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so this is his reaction clip to this one. Okay, perfect.
Get TikTok working, Chris.
Let's try a different browser. Let's try the Opera browser.
Let's try Microsoft
Wait,
Edge.
run that back a
for
few
Edge.
seconds.
Here we go.
Oh, nice. My favorite weapon for home defense is my fists. My Chris, you solving puzzles?
Yep.
Now, how come they don't do puzzles on Joe Rogan? They just have the clip let it up.
This guy, yes.
One of them. I don't care. I got it all. what's your primary weapon system for home defense?
Yeah, I would say this is my defense is layered, right? First and foremost. And the first thing I'd like to say about my home defense is I'm not clearing my house. That's an that's offensive moves. That takes 3 to 1 to get someone out of a house. This is a deep defense. I strong point, right? So I could be at a strong point with a broom and up anyone who comes in my house. You know what I mean? It's about owning the terrain, not about the weapon. Now, what do I carry? Generally, I keep, like anybody, I keep a pistol next to the bed that I can grab immediately. And that would be my primary, right? And from there, I'm only going to advance or retreat. If I retreat to where the rifle is.
Interesting.
And
what is the handgun?
Normally my EDC gun's a G48.
Okay.
The little Glock.
What is the 48?
We should try to kill this guy.
Sam. Instantly. We should kill this guy in real life. I need to get that clip. But yeah, so that's John McPhee. He's done a lot, said a lot, and you know, that's the thing. When you're an internet operator and you start telling all your stories, not that he's only an internet operator. Obviously, it's confirmed he has actually served, has actually done a lot of the things that he claims to do. But if some of your stories just start not adding up, well, it can be, you know, a little problematic.
You didn't even ask me any serious Timmy Kennedy questions. What's up?
How was Tim when he showed up?
You know,
he's a very confident guy.
Overconfident, right? And that kind of led to the big thing in his book where, you know, I beat him up.
You did have to tune him up.
I put him down in the dirt.
What instigated that?
Man, it just incessant talking about kicking everybody's ass. One day I just...
That is actually funny if that's a true story, Tim Kennedy being a complete asshat and then John putting him in his place. But again, you have to call all of that into question because who knows what is true out of this, because Tim Kennedy is a perpetual liar. So whether it's in his book or not, it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
Let me pull up. All right, which leads us to basically... Oh, shoot, wrong one. You guys can't hear that anyways, but... All right, this one right here. So this is a edited down version of Valhalla's video, which actually, let me find Valhalla's video real fast so I can link it to everybody. Valhalla VFT, who also famously called out Trench Grenade in a video, very funnily. I've talked to him a little bit. I actually, at the time, I asked him, like, hey, do you want to come on and talk to Trench about it? And he was like, literally not worth my time, Buster. And so I was like, okay, fair enough. You know, no problems. You know, you don't want to come on here and talk about it. I don't have anything against that. I think that that's probably a wise choice for Trench Grenade. And so, yeah, just moved on from there. So I talked to this guy a little bit. He does instructing. He's a former Green Beret as well, I want to say. Seems like a decent dude, and he does like kind of investigative journalism on other vet bros, kind of like the Anti-Hero podcast does. He's been on their podcast several times. So you're probably familiar with this guy if you're familiar with the situation at all. But I linked his video in chat. You should go watch it. Go give it a like. This is only a 6-minute short summary of his video, which is like 15 minutes long.
All right, so first document we're going to look at here in the linear chain of events of the Special Forces tab revocation amongst, as you'll see here, the revocation of the Green Beret. The MOS changed from 18 series, which is Green Beret, 18 Zulu, to 11 Zulu and infantrymen. All right, so for those of you who haven't been in the military, but in the military is going to know what a DA 4187 is. Personnel action, it's essentially changing something about the soldier's records. As you can see here, down by the X, you have the reclassification and SF tab. When we come down to the remarks section here, you will see, number 1, request reclassification from 18 Zulu, Green Beret Team Sergeant or Sergeant Major, to 11 Zulu, infantrymen. Number 2, concurrent with this reclassification, request the award of the Special Forces tab to Sergeant Major McPhee be revoked.
Now that's the big deal, right? Because you have to do something pretty serious to get your tab pulled, as far as I understand it. Because Tim Kennedy, for all of his lies and everything that he's done, and he's admitted to basically, he hasn't had his tab pulled, as far as I know.
No, he is not.
Yeah. So
which is insane.
Right. So Tim Kennedy has his tab. John McPhee does not. And he got demoted. Is it a demotion?
Yes.
When you go from a master sergeant, right? Green Beret down to standard infantryman?
No, it's not a demotion. They're reclassing you to a different MOS. Your rank is the same.
Soldiers been notified of this actions. And as you see down here, yes, this was part of a GOMAR. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Okay, as you see, not only that, look who this was signed by. Admiral McCraven, all the way to the top. So yes, this was very serious. All right, next document you'll see here, memorandum from the commander. As you can see, recommendation for termination of CMF 18 status, being a Green Beret, and the Special Forces tab of Sergeant Major John McPhee. It says here, I have reviewed the file, including a General Officer Memorandum of Reprimand today, which I directed and filed in Sergeant Major McPhee's OMPF, and recommend you initiate.
See, now every time somebody does that, I have to pull it up on screen so that people can see it. Fresh Pinochet, Mega Base, and I will get to all of those, so don't let me forget, Richard.
Administrative procedures to terminate Sergeant Major McPhee's current MOS, being a Green Beret, and revoke his Special Forces tab. Sergeant Major John McPhee's serious misconduct while assigned to United States Special Operations Command reflects a deficiency in the professional judgment and personal integrity, calling into question his ability to adhere to the personal and professional standards required of a Special Forces Sergeant Major. I make this recommendation based off of AR 600-37, Chapter 1-4, and the objectives of balancing the rights of individual soldiers with the Army's need to ensure that soldiers of poor moral character are not continued in the service and advanced position of leadership, trust, and responsibility. All right, I know you're already.
Now, poor moral character, that sounds really vague. It's like, what do you mean poor moral character? I know plenty of people in the military who are terrible people, but what they mean by like poor moral character is something like truly awful. Like you actually have to be a very bad person to get pulled up on some sort of moral clause, right?
I mean, maybe like Chris Kyle, it's kind of well documented that he was not always very nice to his wife, and he kept his trident. It can come down to politics and whether or not you piss off the wrong person or, things like that. But to be fair, there's also apparently 200 more pages that Valhalla is not releasing, and Jameson is saying that he's seen them, and there were stuff that he said that Valhalla can't even say on YouTube because he'll get his channel banned. So, well, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, so when you're a bigger YouTuber, you kind of do need to be careful with the language that you use in videos. Like if you say raped, that can be bad for your video. In a live stream, really doesn't matter that much. Like you can say whatever the heck you want, basically. You can say almost any slur under the sun. Like it's been months since I've had a demonetized live stream, and we say basically everything on this show. So.
Does that mean I get my pass back?
You don't get your pass.
Oh.
Not for what you did.
Already asking up front what could have been so bad that doled out some of these extreme punishments. We haven't even got through all of them yet. But trust me, that's going to come in the second half of the video. All right, let's keep moving through these documents. All right, and so the final official orders, permanent change of records right here, as you can see, following order is revoked or rescinded as shown. Action revoke pertaining to award of Special Forces tab by the commander. All right, now I'm going to show you the rest of the punishments that came with having the Green Beret revoked and the Special Forces tab revoked here. So as you see here, SWIX, revocation of your Special Forces tab, also the MOS change to 11 Zulu, so revocation of the Green Beret as well, suspension of your special pays, suspension of your security clearance, and 30 days to find an assignment at Fort Bragg, vice PCSing to Fort Drum.
Also known as the Sheriff of Baghdad or Shrek. You are a retired U.S. Army Special Operations Sergeant Major with over 20 years.
Well, that's really interesting because what I have here is John's service record sent to me directly. It's really interesting because
let me make sure everybody gets that. So the claim here is that John Shrek overstated his actual rank, which again, it's one of those things where it's like you're already a Green Beret, you've already done like cool things, but you take it that extra step and you overstate your rank or some of the stories, like Tim Kennedy, essentially, right? He had done cool things. He had been the cool guy. He was in the cool squad, right? But then you just over-embellish all of your stories to the point where now everything's in question.
It would be a strange thing for him to, not correct, but occasionally what can happen is an E8 Master Sergeant can fill in as Sergeant Major for a unit, a company, a battalion, not company. I'm sorry, battalion or brigade or a larger sized element.
Okay, so they can kind of fill in, but that wouldn't give them the rank, though, right? So if I called a major a colonel, he would probably correct me.
He should, yeah.
Yeah, I would hope so, right? And this is on a podcast that has 4 million views, right? His one with Sean Ryan has 3.9 million views a year ago. So that's giving a lot of people the wrong info.
Yes.
PCSing to Fort Drum.
Also known as the Sheriff of Baghdad or Shrek. You are a retired U.S. Army Special Operations Sergeant Major with over 20 years.
Well, that's really interesting because What I have here is John's service record sent to me directly by U.S. Army Human Resources Command as coordinated through USASOC. And according to the U.S. Army, John is a retired master sergeant. That is an E8. That is a very different rank than a sergeant major. As we see here, his full service records, he joined in 1991. That date's going to be very important later as we talk about some things. In Career Management Field 11, the Infantry, and CMF 18, Special Forces, all the way up until, obviously, he had that tab revoked in 2009. And confirming that, as we move down through his service records and we get down into awards here, we start to hit into the schools and badges. Yeah, Ranger tab here you see, but what you don't see here is, of course, the Special Forces tab that would be before that.
No, Sean is not liable, though. I don't know what your thoughts on the Sean Ryan show are, Axe, but I find a lot of his stuff like entertaining, but it's one of those things where you get a lot of guests that go up there and kind of just spin wild stories. So I almost view it more as just entertainment. And Sean himself is a little bit shady in some ways, right? So he's not liable, but he might be complicit in some of these things.
Sean's background isn't like entirely clear. I think he does that on purpose. I do find it strange that, you know, they don't have much more thorough vetting procedures among such a small community for Sean to allow him on. That strikes me.
Well, has he ever addressed the Tim Kennedy thing, Sean?
I think he has in passing. I don't think he took the video down, and I don't think that he addressed his YouTube channel. I think it was on Instagram, but I could be wrong.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. He was like legitimately in the CIA for a while. He did things domestically. So, I mean, it's you know, whether a CIA plant or, you know, just another retard with a channel that gets used for that sort of thing. It's obvious that his channel has pushed a lot of bad info.
For sure.
Yeah. The guy, the one that sticks out specifically to me was the guy who was like a janitor at the Antarctic Research Station.
Oh, yeah. Was that the one where they were talking about the direct energy weapon and beaming voices into people's heads? Was that one?
It was wild, and there's
I love that as entertainment. That's wonderful, but
it's hilarious to listen to. But then you're like, well, hold on, wait. You're supposed to have this like super serious guy on next week, who's, you know, talking about rehab and killing people, and then you go to this, and it's like, all right.
He did do a really good episode on the 4 Blackwater guards that were sent up for war crimes for an incident that happened in Iraq in 2007. That was and then Trump pardoned him during his first term. That was a really good episode.
The one with Eric. I can't think of his name.
I love that song. What?
So according to the U.S. Army, John is not a retired Sergeant Major Green Beret. John is a retired Master Sergeant Infantryman. And while there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, that is not the story that we've been told. All right, so this is the actual reprimand document from the Special Forces Command Team, and we're going to go through it, okay? So this gets into the start of the reasons why. So it says here, you are reprimanded for committing adultery with a fellow non-commissioned officer assigned to this command in violation of Article 134 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. A commander's inquiry conducted by redacted person.
Now, when I was watching this video and he pulls up the adultery thing, I'm like, surely that's just commonplace when you have women in a male-dominated space and it's a high-stress environment. Surely this is just common practice. Surely they wouldn't pull his tab merely for infidelity.
Infidelity is a crime punishable under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and it is common. Not common that everybody gets punished, but it is common.
Well, yeah, so it's common. That's what I'm saying. So they would reprimand him or have some sort of punishment, but I don't know if they would pull his tab simply for that. So that's why this in and of itself, I was like, surely there has to be something more, which is what we get to in just a minute.
It's usually treated as a pretty big deal. Like, you will get busted down in rank big time.
Would they pull your tab for it, though?
If they would bust you down in rank, I would assume that they would pull your tab and probably pull your clearance too.
Interesting. So why didn't, well, there's a lot of other stuff going on as well, so that's why I'm curious why it wasn't more severe then.
A rule of Courts Martial 303 found that during 2008 and January of 2009, you carried on an adulterous relationship with a married woman who was not your wife. You are hereby reprimanded for your misconduct. Your acts demonstrate an absolute departure from the moral, ethical, and legal standards required of our most senior non-commissioned officers.
I mean, I think I'm a great role model.
So you might be thinking adultery, that's not that big of a deal. Oh, there's a lot more to it than that we're going to take a look at. But as you can see here, all of the reasons: adultery, DUI, and detainee abuse investigations. And as that relationship spiraled, I'm going to show you some things that happened here in this room and tell you extreme viewer discretion advised.
All right, so I muted him for this so that we can read it out because he skips over some of the words and context. So I believe this is from his first wife, I want to say. So because I had an affair myself, so who was I to judge? Even though I confessed to my husband and left, he was also very much full of rage. Sometimes he would just snap. All of this anger would just come out of nowhere, and he's punched the window of my truck or throw things, scream at me, threaten me by saying I better stop whatever I was doing, i.e. yelling or defending myself, because he was capable of things I couldn't imagine, and not to put myself in that situation. He's got in my face, bowed up to me, telling me I better shut my mouth because I had no idea what he was capable of. The worst was him putting a loaded gun in my face. He did this because I turned down a song he was listening to so I could hear what he was saying. He was drunk. He has also thrown me to the ground. He did this when I was 3 months pregnant with his child, I imagine. I called 911 but did not press charges. He had threatened to commit suicide. Every time I said I thought that we should part. So that's, man, that's, I get PTSD, anger, all that sort of stuff. The thing that makes you a good soldier and capable of doing terrible things is also not conducive to your home life. Like I have a lot of sympathy for that, right? I do.
That's what this boils down to.
But I also think there's a manipulative element there when, like, girls do this, where they threaten to, commit slew or slide. If, like, if you break up with me, I'm just gonna, self-delete or whatnot.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's not healthy.
Oh no, it's terrible. It's
by no
obvious.
stretch is it a healthy thing to do. Yeah. But I think that there is a very serious mitigating circumstance, and that is combat. That is intense combat, and honing your mind and your body to function in those environments.
Well, so when you say mitigating circumstance, you mean something that makes you understand it more, not like what's the word? It's not an excuse, right?
Not an excuse.
Because
no.
even if somebody has PTSD and they just shoot up the local liquor store because somebody was being loud in the parking lot, like, you can understand that they have issues, but that's not an excuse for them doing the thing.
Well, so in 2004, I believe it was, there was the first case where post-traumatic stress disorder from combat was allowed as a mitigating circumstance in a homicide. The soldier's name was Jesse Bratcher, and it happened in Oregon.
Let me look that up, actually.
Yes,
well,
please
as
do.
a mitigating circumstance, Jesse Bratcher.
Bratcher, I believe it was Bratcher.
Okay. PTSD. Oh, interesting. So... Jesse Bratcher, Iraq war vet, ruled guilty but insane in 2008 murder, is freed from hospital in 2014. So
correct,
interesting. Yes. So PTSD was an insanity plea, but PTSD played a part in it.
It was a mitigating factor. Yeah. Yes.
See, I could see that, right? But you still wouldn't let him off for the murder. He still did time. He still had to do psyche evals.
I absolutely would have. He killed his girlfriend's rapist. And
I'm saying, in this circumstance, I think that is, in this circumstance, is what is killing his girlfriend's rapist. That's justified, but I think that's justified with or without the PTSD, right? That's my personal take on that.
Yeah, sure, I don't think PTSD. I think they just used the PTSD as an attempt to lessen
the sentence, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. But let's take it in. This is with Mr. McPhee, though. That's not what this is. This is not some sort of justified.
No, that is textbook. It is textbook post-traumatic stress disorder, domestic violence. Textbook. It is common.
It's textbook domestic violence. I don't know is that it's.
Well, I mean, I have sympathy for the problems that he has, but I think he simply has to get help and be held accountable for his actions, even if you have PTSD, right? And I'm fine with it being used as a mitigating circumstance, but I could totally see why the community and his family and people should be aware of this sort of thing, so that they can, first off, be safe, but then get him the help that he needs.
I'm wondering how much of this was already existing prior to his enlistment, right?
There's a possibility there, too. And again, I don't know if there's... But the way he acted before versus the way that he acted after, because some people do change. Some people, it just kind of amplifies who they are.
Do we have a date when this incident happened that we could place an age for him at?
I think it was 2009. I want to say.
It was either 2008 or 2009 was
because that
actual report.
That's in the full Valhalla video that I clipped out because I just left just the statement stuff. But yeah, okay. I think it's 2008, 2009, somewhere in that time frame. So he joined in 91. I want to say.
Yeah.
So this was 17 years into his service.
So he had a lot on his mind.
Right. He says, okay, so he had threatened to commit suicide every time we thought we should part. I would stay. During that same time we were seeing each other, he was also on and off with his ex-wife. I found out one time in particular when I went to his house to visit and she was there. I didn't go inside, but just drove away. I later found out from her that he pointed a loaded gun at her and threatened to shoot her. Okay, I was like, what is that word? S and T. Shoot her if she didn't leave. He did this just because she admitted to sleeping with his friend and then roommate, which is very awkward, so I get the anger there. I talked to John about this after the fact, and he not only admitted everything to me, but also told me that she was 5 seconds from getting her head blown off if she hadn't left. I started to distance myself from him at this point, but found it hard to completely let go. There had been multiple times during our time together that I feared him, mostly leaving him. And at the same time, I had an enormous amount of love for him. This is a terrible relationship. Just a bad.
It's an awful sad. It's a very sad story.
Yeah, I did distance myself very much. At least I was a lot of friends. It could be extremely charismatic and deceptive, but some people have seen a different side. He has the police called on him several times by his ex-wife for physical attacks or physical violence. And then I think there's a follow-up statement to this in just a second. Oh, it'll be here in just a second. All right, so this is another one. So this is an email from Sergeant Major McPhee to blah, 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 which states that following sexual intercourse from the previous night, he felt like a rapist, which is awkward. In a statement, he explained the context of the email to be that evening, January 29 of 09. He was over at the apartment, could not recall the reason as they started to fool around. He stated that she had already took medication for the evening and laid there versus being fully involved. So basically having sex with somebody that was drugged out of their mind. There is possible about the same thing. 22nd January 9 complaint alleges that Sergeant Major McPhee was banging loudly on the door and is not otherwise documented, including no phone call to 911. There is just a statement of concern. When asked, Sergeant McPhee stated that many times he went to the apartment after 7 o'clock. He had to bang loudly on the door just to be heard since she took 2 Ambien and a Xanax to sleep nightly. So, again, another terrible sexual relationship that this guy had with somebody who was
that's not good.
On downers all the time. It is just, you're combining an explosive personality with drugs and alcohol and, crazy women. Yeah, not going to go well.
It's not going to go well.
Did you do any deployment trips in that 18 months?
Let's see. Oh, we jumped into Iraq in like fucking 90 or whatever it was. I broke my leg, landed in a minefield, had a walk with broken bones, and then yeah.
All right. So John says there in Mike Ritland's podcast, I believe that was less than a week ago, that he jumped into Iraq during Desert Storm in 1990 into an Iraqi minefield. That's an insane story. But I said we were going to come back to his service records real quick. Let's take a look at those. Now, when I look at these service records, the first thing I notice is John didn't join the military until January of 1991. How did you jump into an Iraqi minefield in 1990 when you weren't even in the military? But let's say you forgot when you joined the military. January of 1991. Do you guys know when Desert Storm, the combat of Desert Storm ended? February of 1991. The war ended when John was in basic training. And not only that, he's missing 2 very important service awards. He doesn't have the Southwest Asia Service Medal, which Desert Storm veterans get. And he also doesn't have the Kuwait Liberation Medal of Saudi Arabia, which is what you would have gotten for Desert Storm. It may have been that he...
So in that section, basically, he claims to have jumped into he makes it sound like a combat situation, right? He jumps into a minefield, breaks his leg in like 90 or something like that, even though by the time he would have possibly gotten there, the war would have already been over, which is why he doesn't have any of those medals. So again, that seems to me, like that would be a straight up lie. Oh, an accident. Are you doing all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I pushed the wrong button.
Oh no, you're all right, man. Yeah. So did you watch that part of the video where he goes into the story that John tells about jumping into basically? Yeah.
So I think it was actually Sep on Discord. He found a thing called Operation Golden Iris, which was December 8th, 1991, and that was when 500 U.S. Army Rangers jumped into Ali Salim Airfield in Kuwait. It wasn't Iraq. They did land in a minefield, and over 40 of them had to be medically evacuated because a big airborne jump like that is going to have a lot of injuries. If it was December 1991 and he joins in January 91, that gives him a year to make it to Ranger Regiment. I don't think it's impossible that that's what he was referring to.
So he was in that one special. What'd you call it? It was
Operation Golden Iris.
Operation Golden Iris. So that's the one that he possibly could have been a part of. That would allow that story to make sense.
Yeah,
well, it was
absolutely.
still, the story would have still not made sense because he said he jumped into Iraq. When he jumped in, it would have been Kuwait.
Did you do any deployment trips in that 18 months?
Let's see. Oh, we jumped into Iraq in like fucking 90 or whatever it was. I broke my.
Well, I mean, in his defense, if you're, this was 25 years ago, 35
Correct.
years ago, sorry. You know, if I said, 90, when I meant 92 or 91 or 93,
Right.
like he's like 90 or something, whatever that year was, you know, I think that's fine to mess up the year. I'm not going to hold that against him. But the fact that, you know, unless it is this hyper-specific mission, right, that he possibly may have been a part of, then the whole story is bunk, right?
My leg,
shit.
landed.
I don't. So if you talk to dudes who have multiple deployments, it's not uncommon for them to forget what happened on which deployment. And just devil's advocate, you know, the Gulf War, very few people were talking about Kuwait when it came down to actual operations. They were always referring to Iraq because that was the enemy. So if he was just kind of going back in his head and talking about it as Iraq, because it was a campaign against Iraq and not Kuwait, I mean, I'm going to give him some room there. But it's yet to be confirmed that he was a part of Operation Golden Iris. That is, if he was, I would not be surprised if he was there and if that's what he's alluding to.
Well, so and I could see how this is simply him just misstating things, and I think there is a big difference between misstating a date or a time or a thing or getting
Or a
details
location.
wrong. Or a location, right? Just saying, okay, it was Iraq when he meant Kuwait or whatever it might have been, right? Because again, this is 35 years ago to a man who is obviously mentally not all there. Right, we know that this guy has issues and probably a history of drug and alcohol abuse, and so you know, at this point in time, his memory may not be the best.
Well, so does so does Sean Ryan, and so did Chris Kyle. Like drug and
Right, but
alcohol abuse are
the
also
big
profoundly
difference,
common
difference there is why I would be a little bit more lenient on this specific one. Is simply because, unlike Tim Kennedy, where it is obvious made-up fabrication lies, this might be a simple misremembering. Whereas you don't misremember your dead friend covering for you in all these stories, right? That's an obvious manipulation of the truth.
Yes.
In a minefield, Patch had a walk with broken bones, and then
So John says there in Mike Ritland's podcast, I believe that was less than a week ago, that he jumped into Iraq during Desert Storm in 1990 into an Iraqi minefield. That's an insane story. But I said we were going to come back to his service records real quick. Let's take a look at those. Now, when I look at these service records, the first thing I notice is John didn't join the military until January of 1991. How did you jump into an Iraqi minefield in 1990 when you weren't even in the military? But let's say he forgot when he joined the military. January of 1991. Do you guys know when the combat of Desert Storm ended? February of 1991. The war ended when John was in basic training. And not only that, he's missing two very important service awards. He doesn't have the Southwest Asia Service Medal, which Desert Storm veterans get. And he also...
Yeah, so if we back up there for a second, it says during a service he deployed in Saudi Arabia in 91, Haiti 94 to 95, Bosnia in 99. So, I mean, he has real deployments, like real documented deployments. We knew that he actually did things, right? It's just the details are a little bit fuzzy.
Awards. He doesn't have the Southwest Asia Service Medal, which Desert Storm veterans get. And he also doesn't have the Kuwait Liberation Medal of Saudi Arabia, which is what you would have gotten for Desert Storm. It may have been that he did a static line jump onto Kuwait airfield after the war was over, but that is a very, very different story than jumping into an Iraqi minefield during Desert Storm. So I think it's time for some honesty, and it's time to stop representing yourself as part of our community, which you are most certainly not. You guys think I'm just trying to go after this guy? I can assure you, there are 200 more pages of this, far, far more embarrassing than what I've showed you. And I'm hoping I don't need to release any more of this. I'm hoping this is enough. Or I may have to public forum and release every single one of these documents to the public in a Google Drive. I'll just have to wait and see. That's not going to be up to me. So again, I'm sorry to, you know, all of his fans and supporters. I get it. There's going to be a lot of cognitive dissonance that goes in learning something like this. I've had no problem with John. I've done multiple pieces of content on John. You can go back and look for yourself. I have been supportive of him or defended him in every single one. But this is not what the Special Forces Regiment is about. And the Green Beret community will continue to police its own.
Well, and I think that he does a good job of that. He doesn't come off as overly biased. And if, again, it's a touchy subject for just normal people to be going off against, you know, military dudes, but he actually is a part of that community. So he has a little bit more pedigree, as the kids say, to, you know, stand up against these people that he considers to be lying.
Right.
And yeah,
He also has,
go ahead.
He also has a video that he put out. It wasn't too long ago, called "The Dark Side of Joining Special Forces." And in that, he talks about how your marriage isn't going to last. You're never going to see your kids if you have a relationship with them at all. And he glosses over the alcoholism, the drug abuse. He expounds on the injuries that you're going to suffer and how you have to put everything in your life aside, every relationship you have, and focus on getting that Green Beret. He glosses over the really ugly stuff, right? And then it wasn't long after that video, he puts out a video called, like, "Now is a great time to join Special Forces." And this was after Trump won. So I think he might have a little bit of cognitive dissonance there too. And I didn't appreciate how he glossed over some of the really dark things that he knows go on in group and in regiment and in the big army and in the Marines and in the Navy. Not so much the Navy or the Air Force, because they don't really do much, but he knows these things. He has to.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Sorry, I thought it was up on the screen. My bad, gentlemen. Yeah, I was looking through his catalog of recent videos. I think it is a touchy thing, right? For any sort of military recommendation at this point in time with our current government. We've talked about it before on the podcast, but yeah, I don't think that you're serving a moral government. So I don't know if you should devote the best years of your life to serving these people. You
definitely should not.
Yeah. And I think that's most of the sentiment that I see online as well. But every now and again, you have people that really, they look fondly upon their service, and they have like this romanticized Americana in their head. And they're like, I feel like I did right with my service, and good on you for that. But, you know, for the average young man, is that a path forward that makes sense for you? Like, I would argue no.
No, I would just say no.
Well, I mean, as a father with young children, like, do I think in the next 15 to 20 years, because, like, you know, my dad was in the military. I have brothers who were in the military, and it's a different world now.